What's going on, guys? This is Chandler Smith and my beautiful wife, Madeline. And today's video is going to be a little bit unique. If you guys followed the channel, you know, it's been probably 3 or 4 months since I did the first video. But my brother Peyton was diagnosed with Hodgkin lymphoma, and then my wife Maddie was diagnosed with colon cancer. So this year has been crazy for us. We definitely are excited about 2022 with everything that we've had, but we decided that we wanted to make a video for a couple of reasons. One, to give everyone on the channel an update of what's going on. And two, because the first place we went after getting this news was to the internet and YouTube. And you want to see other people that are going through what you're going through, so you know what to plan on, what to expect, just different issues you're going to run into, and really what course of action you should take. Another big reason we wanted to do it is Maddie's only 25 years old, and not very many people get colon cancer when they're 25. This is definitely a disease that happens. Is it a disease? An illness?
All the above.
And colon cancer doesn't happen to people that are young. My brother's cancer, Hodgkin lymphoma, does happen to more younger people, but this cancer is something that usually hits 50, 60, 70, 80. And so it's kind of a weird, crazy thing that we never expected to run into. You were stage 3...
3C.
3C. And so in this video, we wanted to share it for all of the people that might be experiencing this, whether it's themselves or friends and family, just because we didn't see a lot out there that we could connect with. I know you had one person that you followed on YouTube that really did help for us.
Yeah.
And so we just really wanted to do it for that reason. We also wanted to do it because you guys have been incredible. Our friends and family have been so awesome. And all of the people that have kind of followed our story with real estate and investing and everything else have been so incredible. I was out at an event this last week, and so many people came up and just told us how we were in their thoughts and prayers, and you know how sorry they were for our situation, and how confident they were that we were going to get through it. And that meant so much to me, and it's meant so much to both of us. There was one couple in particular that came and literally just cried with me and said, you know, we don't know why this has happened, but you're in our thoughts and prayers. We think about you almost daily. And these are people I'd never met, and that really has meant the world to us. And we're hoping, one, to thank people and keep them in the loop on what's going on, and two, if you're watching this and you just got the news, we're really hoping that this video will be more of a pick-me-up on course of action, what you've got ahead of you, and how to get your head right to go through it. So that's all the stuff that we're going to cover in the video, and I'm probably just going to ask Maddie questions and then maybe fill in gaps of some of the experiences I've had. But I know she's really wanted an opportunity to share her experience. So that's the overview of what we're going to cover. Anything else you would add before we jump into it?
No, sounds perfect.
Okay. Well, the first thing is people don't really realize that cancer is such a process of all of, you know, getting to the doctors, getting procedures done, figuring out how you're going to pay for it and how insurance works. And it's a really overwhelming process. And so maybe let's just start at the beginning. And I'll have you pick up and take it. But Maddie had just trained all summer for a triathlon. She went and absolutely killed it. But during that time, she was having some stomach issues and blood in her stool. And that's what made her decided to go into the doctor. And maybe you can take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, I felt really healthy. I had no symptoms other than the blood, and obviously that's something that's concerning. But again, no discomfort. I was able to train for the triathlon. I was able to perform in it well. I felt otherwise healthy. But I did, want to go in and get a colonoscopy done to diagnose whatever was going on. My doctor had assumed the worst case would be early onset Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis, but I remember waking up from getting that colonoscopy and him just saying, I wish so badly that's what we were dealing with, but it's not. They found a 4-centimeter tumor in the lower part of my large intestine. And from there, he just said, let's get it biopsied to make sure that that's what we're dealing with, and we'll move forward with surgery. So a few days later, I got the biopsy results back, and it did come back positive for a malignant tumor. And 3 days after that, I was in for surgery. And that surgery was a big one. They took out a foot of my large intestine. They removed the tumor as well as some healthy tissue on both sides just to make sure they covered everything, as well as 22 lymph nodes. And the reason that they take out the lymph nodes is to test and see if the cancer has spread, and it also helps them in staging. So when I got my results back after my surgery, I had 12 of my 22 lymph nodes test positive for cancer. So that's you're pretty much a shoo-in for chemo when you get results like that back. But the recovery was hard. I couldn't lift anything for 4 weeks, which is hard with a 2 and a 3-year-old, or almost 2 and a 4-year-old at that point. But you played Mr. Mom a lot, changed a lot of diapers for me.
One thing too, and this whole process, I mean, you're feeling so frantic, you're wanting to get in, you're wanting to get action taken, but you're also wanting to make sure you're finding the right doctors, and you feel like if you go to one doctor, you're kind of locked into that doctor. And so I know there was a lot of stress with that. There was a lot of stress with like trying to figure out in your brain how this happened. We were already in a pretty deep pit because of Peyton's cancer diagnosis, and then getting this, it was just like, there's no way that. Yeah. And then the other thing too that you may have skipped over, but she, compared to the people that normally get this, the recovery is supposed to be very hard after getting a foot of your colon removed. Maddie did incredibly well. Like a lot of times people's system doesn't start working again for 4 or 5 days. Yours started working again like next day or even same day. And so we were able to get out of the hospital a lot quicker than expected. The only major bummer is the stuff that they used on her skin to clean the area. What's it called?
It was ChlorPrep. They typically use like iodine, but that's the new kind of norm for surgical prep, is they rub ChlorPrep all over the area, and I found out I was allergic. So that put me in the ER, which was not ideal, but we got over it, and 3 weeks of prednisone will work wonders on you when you have something like that go on. But that was good to know, because then going in when I started treatment, that's what they used to treat your poor area before you receive chemo, and we found that out quick and said, no more of that.
Well, and the reason I point this out is you a lot of times will skip over it, but that was like the worst part. Like you don't realize all of the little parts. We just done surgery, we got news of cancer, and now her whole body is covered in this rash. Like we had to go into the ER. That whole day you were like intoxicated from the drugs that they had to put you on to try and get on top of it. So that was the first time I got to see drunk Maddie, which
according to him, I'm not very agreeable.
And
kind of difficult to deal with.
No, she was like very chill, but very stressful, because she just got a surgery done and she's like pulling her legs up, and I'm like, so I had a lot of moments where I had to just go run, because I just was like shot, and the kids don't understand it at all. They're not picking them up. That was a lot. So we got that behind us, and then we knew we had to do chemo, and then
well, from there, and this is something that Peyton went through. It's pretty standard to receive chemo through a port. So I surgically got that installed about 6 weeks after my colon surgery. And then 2 weeks after that, I started chemo.
Mm-hmm. And chemo ends up being 6 months total, every 2 weeks for the entire 6 months. And there are lots of things with that. That's another thing. You think, at least I did with the port surgery, I'm like, oh, that's not a big deal. But like, you're ripping open your body and installing something on your muscles, and that surgery too sucked. Like,
that was a little bit more that was more painful than I thought it was going to be. And obviously, it's just something foreign in your body that doesn't belong there. So you naturally are kind of grossed out. I didn't look at it for a while.
Through all of this, like, you've definitely had your lows, but I think the thing that's so incredible about Maddie, and also something that I think has really helped her through her treatment, is there were definitely the lows where it's like, why is this happening? You felt miserable. We still don't know if the cancer's in there. With cancer too, you, especially this cancer, you never know if it's going to come back. So it's like coming to terms with, we've got the next 5 years where we're going to be like on the edge of our seat, not knowing when it's to come back. And I think through all those, we got to see the lows, but you've just done an incredible job at hitting the low and being like, no, like, what's the positive? How do we keep a good mindset? How do we push through it? And I think that's been awesome. Everyone asks, how's Maddie doing? And I'm like, well, it's a worst case scenario, but it's best case scenario for how she's handling it when being given worst case scenario. So, but yeah, then treatment, I guess maybe run everybody through what treatment looks like. And
yeah, so for colon cancer, kind of the run of the mill is the full Fox chemo regimen. And with that, you have 2 separate chemo drugs as well as a vitamin, oxaliplatin and fluorouracil or 5-FU, which I think is a very fitting name. But then, that's a bad joke, sorry.
no, it's true.
And then leucovorin, which is a vitamin that just helps aid to make those drugs more effective. And what happens is, I guess, just to kind of take you through the week, I go in on Monday, every other Monday, and I get all my pre-drugs. I get an anti-nausea bag, I get a steroid, and I found out my second treatment that I had a slight allergy to the oxaliplatin. So I'm also given a Benadryl IV, which knocks me out for the rest of treatment and kind of puts me out for that day. But it helps, and I'm able to still receive treatment. But I'm given that and the vitamin. And then once that 2-hour infusion is done, then I get hooked up to a pump. And they just keep the needle in. You wear a fanny pack that has an automatic pump that has a bag of your second drug on it, and that's on a constant drip for 46 hours. And so I go in on Wednesdays early in the morning when that little alarm goes off, and I go in and they disconnect me from that. I think one thing to know with these drugs, obviously, it comes with a lot of side effects, and I chopped my hair because I was starting to lose a lot, and so I'm kind of waiting for that. Luckily, it's not a treatment where your hair immediately all falls out, but they expect it to thin upwards of 50 to 70% of what you originally had. So I've kind of been dealing with that as I've gotten further along. One of the bigger things, though, is, there's just so much going on in your body and a lot of things I don't really know about. And so they take your blood, or they do a blood draw before every infusion to make sure you're healthy enough to receive treatment. But what happens, a lot of these drugs, they just kind of wreck you a little bit without really knowing. And so 2 treatments ago, I had some levels that were low. So now I go in every day after I get disconnected. So on Thursdays, and I get a shot that is supposed to promote new white blood cell growth, because that one has been consistently low. And white blood cells are responsible for essentially keeping you healthy and fighting off infection and sickness. And so that's kind of been added onto my regimen, and that can cause some severe bone pain. So tip, Claritin, believe it or not, I take that the day before, the day of, and day after, and that helps a lot with the bone pain with that. But yeah, I don't know. We can go through side effects if you want. We can go through, but that's kind of the week. That's what the week looks like.
Yeah, I think, honestly, we were very grateful how well you've handled it for the first half. So we made this video. Maddie finished her halfway mark exactly. It'll be 2 weeks ago tomorrow. And that was also something, hitting halfway was something we were really excited about and really looking forward to. And we went in and that's when her blood levels weren't good enough. So we had to bump her halfway treatment back a week. And that sucked. Like, we both, because you just mentally, you're like, all right, I'm halfway. And they're like, actually, your blood levels are not good. So we're going to have to bump it a week. And so we had really built up. We had lots of people bring by nice gifts of like halfway, and we're like, almost.
Well, I think one thing to to think about, and I know that talking to Peyton, he's the same way, but and I would guess anyone that that is going through cancer treatment, it's almost like you schedule out being sick with like a flu. It's kind of nice in that way because when you're going to be your sickest. But I think it's a big head game. So going in for that treatment that I had to miss, I was prepared for, okay, I know Wednesday and Thursday I'm going to feel like crap, and I know that this is going to happen and this and this and this, and then getting bumped back, it just messes with you. It's a really big mental game, probably just as big mental as it is physical, and so it's hard to prepare for it and then not have it happen.
Yeah, you just have little things along the way that I think everybody, and this is something that if you're dealing with it or you're watching this video because you just got diagnosed or you have friends or family, I think it's really nice to be in a community and get to talk to people. Like, we've connected with so many people that have made it through this, or even people with other cancers, because before this point in our lives, I hadn't had someone really close to me that dealt with this. And so you see it and you're so sad and it doesn't make sense and it puts you down for 30 minutes. And then you can kind of go back to your life. And one thing that's really hard about this is you just can't. And so one thing, and we'll talk about this, I had a bunch of questions I was going to ask Maddie, but if you are going through it and you're hitting this point and you just found out and you're like, man, life is never going to feel the same again. Like, how do you ever deal with the fear of it coming back, deal with the stats, deal with all of the crap that comes with cancer? And I think I would tell you that it does get better. Like, it took us a minute, but we've definitely got into our flow where crap happens and you're just like, well, all right, well, like, how do we shift this and make it beneficial? And with that week off, I think looking back, we both are super grateful for it because you really got feeling good during that week off where we could do.
Yeah, it was nice to kind of have a taste of what after treatment would feel like. It was nice to start feeling normal again. And
I think this treatment that you just did was better too. Like, once you actually got the treatment, it seemed like you recovered better. You didn't have as intensive side effects as it was kind of building up to. So I don't know. It's been crazy, but we are halfway and we're taking on, I guess mostly you are taking on treatment number 7 tomorrow. Yep. So there are a couple questions. We always get asked a lot of the same questions, and there are some questions that I think people are nervous to ask or they don't want to dig in. And so in this video, we just wanted to lay those out because we think they'll help people and also help you kind of understand the situation. Because the one thing I realized too is so many people go through this, and I don't think there's enough out there. Like, we've talked about it. People say you should definitely do counseling and you should have all these things because it wrecks you mentally. And I think doctors have their treatment, but we've definitely had to work hard to get the right support system and mentally deal with it, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, yeah.
So here are the questions. All right, guys, so we are going to go in and I'm just going to ask a bunch of questions that I think people will want to know the answers to, whether they're going through this or have family going through it. And I think a lot of our friends and family have wanted to know the answers to these, but they've been uncomfortable asking. And it's crazy because the more people know, the more I feel like our interactions with them are beneficial to us. Mm. And maybe that's a jealous or selfish thing to go, but like, when people know about the side effects, when they know about the mental struggles, when they know about everything that goes into the treatment, it just puts them in a better place to be empathetic for our situation. But anyone that's going through this, we've had people that are close to us and some that aren't super close that just live in our neighborhood that are also going through cancer. And it's just crazy because we really have been able to feel what they're feeling and help in a way that we feel like is way more beneficial than we probably could have had we not been through this experience. So first question, and you were kind of getting into this, but let's just hit on side effects and what you wish you knew going into it?
Well, I think with this chemo regimen, exactly. I mean, every chemo is so different. Even talking with Peyton, there are vast differences between every chemo drug. But with mine, that fluorosil that I have in my pump, that's kind of the tried and true colon cancer chemo drug. That one causes a lot of the run-of-the-mill cancer symptoms, the nausea and the, GI problems, the mouth sores, nose sores, the extreme fatigue. That one I dislike the most because that one makes me feel the crappiest. But the oxaliplatin is more of a unique drug because it causes a lot of like nerve side effects. So I remember our oncologist, when he was explaining these drugs, he got kind of high pitched and he was saying, so this one causes a weird one. And he was trying to explain it, but it causes extreme cold sensitivity. And hearing that, I'm like, okay, well, I don't know, you're cold all the time. I don't really know what that means. But I mean, we're in Idaho in the summer, or excuse me, in the winter. And that one's been a little harder to deal with. Like extreme pins and needles in hands, feet, if they get cold. So I just had to get in the habit of keeping gloves by the fridge if I have to get something out of the fridge for myself or the kids or something. Always wearing gloves to open up door handles and bring them to the grocery store to get refrigerated items out of the refrigerator. Another thing that that bums me out probably the most is it caused a lot of cold sensitivity in your mouth and throat. And so everything for upwards of maybe 10 days after your infusion, everything I eat or drink has to be warm or room temperature because anything cold can cause what they call laryngospasm, which is not fun. So a lot of just bad pins and needles and just spasms in that way. But overall, yeah, I think with the exception of the cold sensitivity, it also can, one of the more scary things, it can cause permanent neuropathy if they're not really careful about your dosage. And I had to get a 20% reduction of that drug this last week because of the blood issues it was causing, but it can be a dangerous one. And so they really try to stay on top of it and make sure that always divulge all your symptoms and say, is this normal? Is this okay? Is this okay? And your oncologist will direct you as to what the best next step is to see if you need to lay off any certain drugs or not.
Yeah, I think to add to that, two that you skipped that I had no idea about was first bite. So
oh yeah, that's true.
Whenever she'll take her first bite, especially right after treatment, but then any meal for the first, 3 to 5 days or something like that, there's something with the whatever glands.
I think it's a salivary gland issue.
I don't know, but it like makes her jaw lock up, which is super weird.
If you've ever had a cavity or something or dental work done, it kind of reminds me of like the shot they give you in your mouth. But one thing that's helped the mental breakdowns is the same thing happens in your eyes. So that first week, if I want to have a pity party and I start getting choked up like I'm gonna cry, it burns. So I'm like, snap out of it, stop. So that makes me snap out of it quick, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, that's the other thing. We were crying a lot, like with my brother and then yours. It was like every day, multiple times a day.
We were a sad bunch, man.
And it is interesting though. I don't know where I saw this, but it can become addicting to feel bad for yourself. And
yeah.
I know that sounds bad, but like you kind of get habitual about it. And
I think it's just easier for you to make that your default with everything is, oh, your treatment's delayed. Oh, my life sucks. This is horrible, and it's easy to just fall into that.
And I think you feel justified in doing it, even though the more time you spend in that headspace, the worse it is. Like it doesn't make you feel better. You definitely need to mourn, but also we both had to come to terms with like, all right, we gotta get our crap together and just take this on because you can get into a rut. I think also no one tells you what the right way to react is. One, for us, no one, like, we haven't yet found someone that has had, you know, a brother and a wife. Well, that they're my brother and my wife, but for our whole family, where you've got two people that get cancer that are going through treatment at the same time. Like, my parents are here. Your parents are in Vegas. Pate's, or Les, my brother's wife's family, is out in Virginia. And so they've been awesome at coming and visiting, but it was a heavy load to have all of us dealing with it. And again, I've said this, but it does become addicting to mourn and be in that bad place. And also, you don't know the right way to respond. You don't know if you should feel guilty for trying to get out of it, if you should feel guilty for staying in it. And so, I don't know, we went through a really bad space, but then we're just like, no, like, we still have to live. We still have to give our kids a good, fun day every day where they're learning and growing, and we can't have them pick up on all this negativity every day. And as hard as it was, I do think when we both sat down and we're like, all right, screw this. Like, we're not going to stay in this place anymore. Everything we're going to try and twist into a positive. We're going to try and get super scheduled with our diets, with working out. I know helped you a ton to stay active, getting a good sleep schedule. Like, we just kind of revamped our whole life. We haven't been perfect, but we've been a lot more perfect. And I think all of those things have made it way easier to cope than staying in this bad, you know, woe was me space.
Yeah.
So, okay. I'm probably jumping ahead on the questions that I pulled out, but what's been the hardest part for you?
Oh man. I think, truthfully, I really think the mental side of things, it's hard to not feel like my body failed me. Like, did I do this to myself? Are my kids going to remember me being sick and always going to the doctor and all these things? So I think mentally, honestly, has been the hardest thing. You know, you get a flu, you get over it. You get sick, you get through it. And that's kind of how treatment is felt, where I go through this wave of getting a guaranteed sickness every 2 weeks, and then you work through it, you manage the side effects, you do what you need to do, but the mental side stays the whole time. So I think that the biggest thing is let yourself be mad, let yourself be sad, like, allow those feelings to happen, but try your hardest not to make that your constant reality. That's been the most difficult thing. And I think, like, on Wednesdays, I know that's like the point where I had the highest concentration of the drugs in me. And I know I've historically called it my breakdown day, but, like, you know, it's a hard day. And I let myself be sad and tired for a minute, but then I know that at the very beginning of treatment, I told you, like, you need to be like, no, we're getting up, we're doing this, or we're going to the cabin, we're getting the kids out to do this, and to kind of be the fun dictator so that I don't let myself kind of throw myself a pity party as much as sometimes I want to.
Yeah. Well, it's hard because you feel like trash, but we both also know that the more we do, the more you feel better.
Yeah.
I think, and not to put words in your mouth, but the other big struggle for both of us is just, it's very easy to take on a sickness or take on an injury or take on whatever else because you know there's an end in sight.
Yeah.
And with cancer, the scary thing is, like, we're halfway right now, and we're, like, so going to stay in that headspace, but you just don't know. Like, there could be requirements for other treatment. It could come back somewhere else. That's the thing that's so infuriating about cancer, is this thought process of, like, you're never completely done with it. Like, it kind of sits on our shoulder for the rest of our lives. And at first, for me, that was the hardest part of, like, we never will be able to get away from this. But I think also that's been probably the biggest place for growth, is doing all of the right things, living presently, living life, knowing that we just don't know. And, we always bring in, we could die in a car wreck tomorrow. And it's true, because I think that has been and will be a massive blessing for us, knowing that there's always that risk that something comes back, because it has altered the way that we want to live and that we're choosing to live. But also, I do think you can get to a place where you can come to terms with it. And that's something I wish someone would have told me the first couple months, because that was the hardest thing. Is every time I'd get to a good place, anytime it got brought up, I'm like, what if it comes back? What if we deal with it later? What if, and you just get in this negative cycle. And you can get to a place where you just come to terms with that, and you realize that life is just that risk, and you've still got to just put it out and not live in fear, but kind of live in faith with it.
One thing that you've always said, and this is even before the diagnosis, is, you don't want to live it twice. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen, but stressing about it, losing sleep over it, making yourself miserable about the potential of something happening now doesn't benefit you at all. Like, I think there's something to be said about mentally preparing yourself to receive bad news and not thinking you're immune to that. But also, I don't want to mourn having the cancer come back when I haven't even finished my plate yet, and fearing that it's going to come back when, if in 3-4 years, if it does, and it's like, hey, I'll take that on if and when it comes, but I'm just going to count on it not for right now, and just focus on getting through treatment, and then assuming that it takes care of it, and then it's never going to come back.
Yeah. No, I think that's spot on. The next question I had down was, how have things changed for you with, I don't know, mental space, view on the world, view on treatment, all of that, from when you got the diagnosis to now, we're 4 months later, 5 months later?
Yeah.
What would you say has been the biggest change that other people in this situation you wish they knew about, good or bad?
I would think two things come to mind. I just like what you had said before about living more presently. That's definitely something that we've done and that we've changed. I feel like before, the best word I could think of is just stagnant. Like, you just kind of went day to day. But now, I know I've kind of brought this up a few, but it's kind of like this dangling threat in front of your face that you don't know, like, it might get you, it might not, I don't know. And so it's been like, well, gosh, if that's the story of my life, like, I don't want to look back and just look at a stagnant life. And so we've really tried every day to make it a meaningful day. And another thing that's a little more, I guess, like fact-based is, the fact is it's colon cancer, and there's a really big chance that some of this may have been brought on by the stuff that I've put in and on my body my whole life. I mean, I was a kid, I was fueled by Pop-Tarts, and I'm eating, Cocoa Krispies every morning, and I'm eating sugar up the wazoo, like, every day of my life. And that's how I was even into my adult life. And the fact is, like, now I kind of had the mindset of, if it's going to come back, it's not going to be because of anything I did. And, we enjoy, a cookie, and we enjoy the sugar and that kind of stuff. But, I've re-bought all my makeup, so it's all clean. Shampoos, body washes, perfumes. I don't do candles anymore, with filtered water, just so many things that the fact is we're just surrounded by a lot of toxic stuff. And having this stuff placed in front of me, and being told, like, well, all this stuff kind of causes cancer. Like, you might want to lower your risk a little bit. It's made me kind of frustrated that there's so many bad options out there, and that I had done, I've kind of set in bad habits my whole life. But that's probably been the most prominent change that we've all made as a family, is just switching to organic vegetable, or organic everything, and incorporating a lot more fruits and veggies, and really trying to cut down on sugar and all this stuff that'll put you in a better spot health-wise overall, but especially if you're dealing with cancer, or if cancer poses a threat to you. That's something I would strongly consider everyone to just buy clean and get cleaner stuff in your home.
Well, and this is something that I, my whole life, have made fun of. Like, stupid people. Don't you know, if it says diet, that means that it's not like the pure version, the best version, the one that tastes good. It's just like, dude, your body is fine. Like, you can handle it. But as we step back and really we're researching, because we're like, frick, like, what can we do? What difference can we make? And you really dive into all of the things that you're constantly putting, especially into your body. It's terrifying, because say what you want, but you wouldn't, drink Windex. And yet we kind of drink Windex all the time with the food and everything that we put into our bodies. And so I also think like our sleep schedule, our working out, our also, like you said, you just get into this, you just do your day. And we've definitely both switched up our routines where it's like, what matters, so that I can say like I did everything I want to today. And for me, that's been hard, because every day I've changed my schedule where I get way more time with my kids, especially on her bad days, and I get way more time with you. That's been absolutely incredible. But it also has helped me come to terms with the fact that I really love work, and I need at least a little bit of work outside of just spending time with family every day to progress and grow. And you've found that with other things too, where you just need your time to do the things that you're passionate about. And so, I don't know, it's funny. I feel like retirement, or the dream of retirement, has probably died for both of us, because we just want to stay busy too, and make sure that every day is filled with the most important things. What are the things that you've been grateful for through this process?
You, the most. But realistically, just caregivers in general, my mom, my mother-in-law, the support of friends, like, you need help during this. It's just the fact of the matter. And, I have 2 young kids, and I can't show up all the time right now. And, especially recovering from that surgery where I needed to wake you up to help me go to the bathroom because I couldn't sit up by myself. And you came in clutch a lot of times. But I'm really grateful because, just like what we talked about with things we put in and on our bodies, I do think that it'll set me up to have a healthier life later on. If I'm blessed with that, and that's something that I'm very grateful for. I'm grateful that it was made enough of a big deal to really make me do this stuff, where before you're like, oh, I should do cleaner, I shouldn't be drinking all this soda, I shouldn't be, but now it's like, no, you need to stop. You better get in shape here. And so I've been grateful for that. But also, I know you touched on this at the beginning, I really do feel like this experience has allowed us to develop a new form of like empathy and understanding that we didn't possess before. Because the fact is, luckily we hadn't really gone through, even individually, like really bad hardships in our lives. And then we were kind of smacked with both of these at the same time. And I feel like it's a lot easier to be empathetic and understanding, and it's the epitome of you have no idea what someone's going through. And I feel like, you come across a curmudgeon or someone who's in a bad mood, and it's like they may have just brought their spouse home from chemo and they're just getting out for the day because they haven't been out of their house in 2 weeks because they're taking care of you never know. And so I feel like it's kind of put a new lens on our life of how to treat people and giving people grace and being more understanding.
Yeah. First off, the people, especially our close circle, has been incredible.
Yeah.
Your good friend Eden, she called everybody in our neighborhood and all of our friends, and she called Garrett, and they put together this massive parade for Maddie, of just car after car after car, and running up, leaving stuff. And Garrett, for the first 3 months, came by every day and dropped something off. Pretty sure he had to take out a second mortgage on his house to keep up with all the gifts he was bringing us, and all of our families and all of that. It's just been so incredible. And it's so it's crazy because I feel like we got back to level, and even while we're still in this, it's easy to lose sight of all the things that we said we were gonna stick to with being empathetic. A lot of times I'll get back into work and I'll just fill back into my role of like, hey, you need to do this and this is why. And I'm like, actually, that isn't that important, and I probably don't need to get so riled up about it. Also, just I'm someone that I always have viewed the world as like, how can I get the edge? How can I get the benefit? How can I, really, this sounds bad, but like get to the front of the line on things. And it's easy to not think about other people's situation. And I know right when we had finished getting a portion of your colon removed, I went in to pick up some prescriptions for you, and you were just starting to deal with the allergic reaction, and the kids are struggling because, you can't pick them up. And it just was like the lowest low. And I went, and the drive-through line at Walgreens was like out the yin yang. And so I decided to go inside, and there's this massive line of people. And I wasn't sure that the prescription had been called over. So I hopped in line, and I asked the guy in front of me, I was just like, hey, could you save my spot? I'm just going to go make sure that our prescription has actually been turned in, so I don't wait for 30 minutes and then get up there and see that it is. So I go up for 2 seconds, and she's like, yeah, it's in, just hop in the back of the line. And I'm like, perfect. So I go back behind the kid, and a lady had gotten behind him. And I was like, hey, thanks for saving my spot. And she looks at me and she goes, really? You're going to do that? I've got 2 kids waiting in the car. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I had him save my spot. And she's like, fine, whatever. And I just like, I literally wanted to just lay on the floor and cry. And it wasn't any other day, it wouldn't have been that big of a deal. And like, she's got her own stuff, and I get it. But it really gives you perspective of like, you have no idea what people have going on in their lives. Any advice you would give to people that are going through this right now, whether it's family members or like people that have just been diagnosed with your same cancer or just any cancer?
I think that I'm looking at the beginning of my journey, and it's don't let stats scare you. They're stats, and you don't want to get wrapped up in numbers, and you don't know what path lies ahead of you. And so I would say really try your best to keep a level head and let the doctors do their job and give your body grace, keep it healthy, fuel it with what it needs, and do what you can little by little to give yourself the best outcome that you feel like you can be in control of, because there's so many things that are out of your control. But I mean, you can try to control, how you spend your morning, if you go to bed on time, what you put in your body, So just really try to do the little things that you feel like you're capable of doing, even though it may not be a lot some days. And I know there's been a lot of days where it's barely enough for me to get a decent drink of water, and it can be hard. But lean on other people, lean on your support system, allow them to help you, allow people that are offering to help, let them do it. And yeah, I guess know it's going to be hard, but that there's an end in sight. It's not going to last forever. And I'm pretty convinced of that. So
love it. Last thing, and then anything else you want to add, but what are you looking forward to the most?
Oh man, I want to go to Hawaii. I think I feel like I have a new respect for my body and what all it's been through and what all it's fought and done. And I almost feel like this obligation to treat it, like almost like thanking my body. And so I have every intention of doing that triathlon again, and I'll probably be in the back of the freaking line, but I want to do that again. I don't know if that makes any sense. I want to reward my body for what all it handled and what all it went through. Because it really is incredible in what will be probably a 7-8 month period, all that it had gone through, with what will be 3 surgeries, countless scans, 12 infusions of chemotherapy. So I'm looking forward to just try my best to be healthy and having consistent periods of time where I feel good and I can have the energy and I don't know, not be afraid of getting sick or not, just I don't know. I'm excited for a lot of things, but the good thing is I feel like we really tried to just maintain a fun, good life, especially on my off weeks where I'm feeling well, and I'm excited for that to be more permanent.
Yeah.
Not be interrupted with the bad weeks.
Definitely. It's, as we've talked about it, it's interesting because I feel like throughout my life I've been very forward thinking, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years down the road. And it's, sorry, it's almost like that got chopped away from us for a little bit, where we're just like looking at the next day and looking at end of treatment. And there have definitely been times, and even consistently, where it just feels like life's never going to be normal. We're living in the twilight zone. And I think with COVID and where the world's at and everything, a lot of people already kind of felt that. But between COVID, cancer, and construction on our new house, it feels like we are permanently locked in this like hellhole. And I am so excited to get to the point where it opens up again and we can see further. And I know biggest thing for us that's kept us motivated, we talk about it a lot and talk about it with my brother Pate a lot. And it's just like all the things we're going to do at the end of the summer.
Yeah.
With our kids, going to the cabin, boating, just all the simple stuff. So, sorry, the goal was to keep it together for the video. And
you've had to deal with me crying enough. It's only fair.
We pretty much made it. So, anything else to add?
No, I'm looking forward to, being done, and maybe even before I'm done, I'll do another video that goes through a lot more of the details for anyone who's going through this type of cancer, because the reality is the youngest person I found that had videos, she was in her 30s. But other than that, again, like you said, I'm the second youngest person with colon cancer that our oncologist has ever treated. And it's really hard to find information on it. And not saying that my story will be a lot different than maybe anyone's parents or grandparents or friends that are going through it that are older, but I would like to do a video just kind of walking through more of the details of stuff so you kind of have a better idea of what to expect going through it. But nothing else to add. I'm excited to have a done with chemo video being filmed.
Well, I've thought it's interesting how much you've been down to make this video and wanting to do that next video, because with my YouTube stuff, I can usually twist your arm to come and do videos with me. But this, I think both of us, just after having been through it, we really want other people to like see. Yeah. And we're looking forward to that end video. And the 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 years down the road video, because nobody put those out, and those are the videos we're really looking for, so.
Well, and knowledge is power, and the more you know, I truthfully think that the better your mental state is, the better you can handle everything. And I know for me, I felt like I was just watching Peyton like a hawk those first couple treatments before I started, because honestly, the most uneasy feeling I have felt this entire process were those few days leading up to chemo, because I had no idea what to expect. And not saying that I can magically take that feeling away from people by kind of telling my story and sharing my experience, but there is a lot of comfort that comes with, okay, someone else has done this, someone else has been through it. Maybe it's another young person that's dealt with it, that's been abnormal, and I guess I hope I can help somebody with it.
Yeah, definitely. So, and I keep dragging this video out, but it is, for us, there have been pros and cons to watching Peyton go through this. Mm-hmm. But he's got his treatment this Thursday, and then he only has one left.
Yeah.
And we're getting there.
Well, it seemed like it would never come, but it is. It's here.
Yeah. So cool. Well, guys, yeah, thanks for watching. Sorry. Mads, thanks for doing this. And we are really excited and looking forward to the next video and the videos after that. So, and it sounds like our kids just woke up. So time to wrap up the video. If you guys, well, you know the thing. Thanks so much for watching. And we will see you in the other videos where I will not be quite so emotional.
See ya.